Connor O'Gara joining us from Saturday Down South, national senior columnist from Saturday Down South. Connor, the football season went off the rails a long time ago. We're nowhere near the rails now. How are you?
I'm doing well. You know, I got to say, like, there have been many moments in which I've been doing this job, and I've really tried to put myself as an unbiased viewer in the position of a fan base. And on Saturday, watching the way that fourth quarter played out for Arkansas, I know I'm not breaking any news by saying this, but I just kept thinking, why? Like, why do Arkansas fans deserve to have this happen, to have this insanity, this cruel trick that is just played on them Saturday after Saturday? It's well beyond mean, and it's sickening, and I don't know what can ever possibly change it.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of reasons to feel that way too.
Connor,
so go ahead, Matt.
Well, we're going to have the playoff committee's going to be coming out. What is it, this week, right? Who is your right now, Connor? Who's the top four teams that would be getting those buys?
I think we'll probably see something really similar to what we saw in the AP poll. I think Alabama at number 4 is the top one-loss team. Makes a lot of sense. A&M at number 3. SEC slate's been favorable, but the Notre Dame win still carries a lot of weight. And then Indiana at 2 and Ohio State at 1. And some will say, look, Indiana's resume is better than Ohio State's, but we also do this thing in college football where if you are a have-not and there is a have ahead of you, then it's going to be held against you no matter kind of if it's in this year or not. And that feels like it'll be the case for Indiana and Ohio State because of the way that last year's game played out. Fair or not, I think that's how we'll see it play out on Tuesday night.
And then also last year, man, it was so cool with Travis Hunter and Alshon Jenti doing the Heisman race. Is there a Heisman favorite you got right now? Who would it be?
Julian Sayin and Fernando Mendoza are very obvious names, and deservedly so. I think that Ty Simpson's probably not going to have the numbers that those guys will end up having, but I think for those who have watched all three, I think it's pretty hard to knock Ty Simpson at this point, and especially, seeing the way that he's responded post-week 1. To me, like, every single big-time moment that Alabama is faced with, he just makes a play, and it's kind of unbelievable how little they think about going for it on fourth down. Like, my co-host Will Ogburn has been saying this for a while. Bama doesn't even have to think about whether or not they're going to go for it in 4th and 4, 4th and 5, and they've been kind of faced with a lot of these tight game decisions to have to make. And Ty Simpson is just always going to be the guy that's in total control, and I think he deserves to be at the top of that list. It feels like those three are going to dominate the conversation. And Jeremiah Smith, what he's doing at Ohio State, got off to a bad start this year, but has looked like the best non-quarterback, maybe the best overall player in college football.
I'm going to get back to Arkansas with you here and just play off something you'd said about Ty Simpson and how when push comes to shove, fourth quarter, he's in control, he's going to make a play. Arkansas football right now is the opposite of that when it comes to the fourth quarter or the second half, or really when you have to do something to win a football game. And I reflect what you're saying about what did Arkansas fans do to deserve this? Because unless they come up with an upset in the last 3 weeks, Connor, they're looking at a 4th 0-8 SEC season in the last 13 years. And it would be under 4 different coaches at that point. Really 5 with Sam and Bobby sharing this one. Then you would have had it under Chad twice, under Brett twice. Goodness gracious. I don't know what they did to deserve this. They didn't do anything to deserve this. It's just right now, there isn't another football program in the SEC that's facing this.
It is truly bizarre. And it was obviously, you talk about there's not another program in the SEC that was facing it. Mississippi State kind of was the program that was facing it, having not won an SEC game in 2 years. Mm-hmm. And they were the program that should have had home wins against Texas and against Tennessee, led at the 2-minute the 2-minute timeout in the fourth quarter against both of those teams, and weren't able to hold on. They should have beat Florida as well, and just threw a terrible late interception to ruin that opportunity. It's like Mississippi State was doing the exact same thing that Arkansas was doing. Now, the difference being they had the huge win in non-conference play against Arizona State. That carried a lot of weight, and there were still people going, well, this Mississippi State team is better than people think, and Jeff Lebby's in obviously a much different spot only in year 2. But still, it was kind of something you had to give. And why is Arkansas always the thing that has to give? That's my question, because even as they score that touchdown to make it a 14-point game, and you're like, all right, everything feels like they're in control, there's always that but, and it's just always going to be there. What did the game, like, they had, I think, minus 14 yards after they took the 14-point lead. I mean, that just can't happen, and it's inexplicable, the things that this team continues to do down the stretch, and Taylor Green is part of that. I mean, I think he's leading the nation with 5 interceptions in the fourth quarter. At least that's what it was going into that game, but haven't checked the total since then. It's mind-boggling, and I feel so bad for Arkansas fans that just put up with this because they're told they have to. And I think the program needs an entire rebranding, remarketing, just to change up the vibes, because at this point, I don't even think that it's necessarily, it's just Sam Pittman, it's just Bobby Petrino, it's just Taylor Green. Like, it's everything, and I don't really see the end in sight.
Florida, LSU, Auburn, Arkansas, all going to be looking at new coaches next year. Anybody else this year? We kind of been joking on this show a little bit.
We forgot to do our Google poll for next week.
Each week there's another coach that's going to get fired in the SEC. I don't know. You're kind of looking around. I think a lot of the other teams are kind of they're a little more happier than some of these others. But who else is on the hot seat?
Kentucky with Mark Stoops. That's the last remaining one that I think there's a real possibility. And, you talk about, like, what do Arkansas fans do to deserve it? Kentucky fans have not seen their team win a home power conference game in over 2 years. Ray Davis ran all over Florida. September of 2023 was the last time that Kentucky beat a power conference team at home. So they're staring at a situation that's going to be really, really difficult with a buyout that's 4 times as much what Sam Pittman got with their winningest coach in program history. And even worse for them, they're looking around at all these vacant SEC jobs going, oh, man, the guy that we thought was going to replace Mark Stoops, that is John Summerall, is being linked to all these other jobs. And all these other jobs are better than Kentucky. So what do you do if you're Mitch Barnhart, the Kentucky athletic director? I think that's the one that if they lose at home to Florida to an interim coaching staff, I think there will be a feeling of, man, this has really run its course, and they don't really feel like this can continue with Mark Stoops.
What were you thinking after Rhett signs the contract extension at SMU, and then they go out and have that upset over Miami in their stadium? The visuals are carrying out of lowering the goalposts and everything, and the fans rushing the field. I mean, they made it into the ACC championship game last year, playoff team. I know they might not be a playoff team this year, but they were able to keep the coach. And I remember when they joined the ACC, and I publicly on this show said, what does SMU think they're getting into here? This is, they don't have this fan base or everything, but you know what they do? They've got a ton of money. They use it properly, and keeping Rhett Lashley there is one way to use it properly.
It's how this era of college football is so much different than the previous. And I don't feel like we'd be watching any of those things play out if this were 10 years ago. If SMU had tried to make this move at a different time, I don't think, one, they would have had success in the ACC, and two, I don't think they would have been able to retain Rhett Lashley, and he would instead be such an obvious name for all of these other jobs. But they have a really good situation there, and they have a very favorable path to the college football playoff. Now, what's going to be interesting is seeing how in the world they're going to find a way into probably another ACC championship, kind of TBD on all that. Virginia is the last remaining unbeaten in the ACC. But that's a guy that in a different time would be linked to all these SEC jobs, and we would just say, well, just pick your destination. Where's he going to end up signing with? And there are just so many programs across college football, SMU being one of them, that now have the money to pay these coaches really significant generational wealth and to be really good and have a path to the playoff. And it just is so much different than what we've been trained to think like for the past, 25 years in college football.
Well, it's craziness, really. I mean, that's just one thing to point to about the major change in college football. And another thing to look at now, Dabo crashing out the way he did yesterday at Clemson. Like, it's been fascinating to watch the downward spiral for Clemson this year, and for Dabo specifically. Like, that's one of the most amazing aspects of this football season is not just to see Clemson struggling and missing out on a bowl game probably, but to see Dabo so publicly be losing it like this?
Dabo has gone from searching for bulletin board material to push back against his own team's preseason love to now losing his mind on his own offensive coordinator, his own defense rather, and officials, and just losing his mind on everyone in his waking path. And I know that he used bulletin board material because he literally pulled up like one of my stories that questioned whether or not Clemson was going to be able to defend the run this year, and basically like was showing it to his team. And like that's how low Dabo was on, any sort of skepticism about his team coming into the season that he legitimately thought was going to win a national championship. And here he is just probably fighting for bowl eligibility. And it's an adapt or die world. This is a perfect example of someone who has not adapted and will watch the way of college football pass him by as a result. And that's the world that he has decided to live in, and he's got nobody to blame for it but himself.
You don't always win your first bet. That's why MyBookie has you covered. Use our code HOGS, HOGS, and your first bet up to $500 is fully covered. If your pick doesn't hit, you get it right back with our Bet Back bonus. Go to mybookie.ag and use the code HOGS to claim your Bet Back bonus. MyBookie's where bettors win together because bragging's good, but cashing in is better. And your first bet is fully covered. Use our code HOGS.
Must opt in during the bet to use the Bet Back bonus.